back, everybody, to the Pat Flynn Show here once again with the legendary strength coach, according to Men's Health Magazine, Dan John. We have the beautiful beach scenery in the background. It is, of course, summertime. And Dan, before we catch up and begin with the dull preliminaries, the topic of today's conversation, I ventured as Dan John's perfect summer workout. So start stewing on that because everybody wants to know what Dan John's perfect summer.
Well, that's interesting because okay, let's we will discuss this in great depth.
Yes, but we don't have to do it yet. How's your training been? What have your workouts looked like this past week? And just give us some of those the usual updates if you don't mind.
Sure. Thursday I head down to Phoenix for a discus and shot put camp, and I'm looking forward to that. And the following week, and it's funny, I don't yet know. I don't know the day and I don't know the time, but I have an Olympic lifting meet the following week.
Great.
My coach, Dave Turner's, has asked the meet director for the simple, what day were we lifting? I mean, it's just a small thing. I mean, what day? I mean,
details.
I mean, come on. And then the week after I'm off to New York City with Jeff Hemingway and the gang to do a kettlebell certification. So I'm trying to do right now. I'm kind of trying to figure out how you get in shape for discus shot, Olympic lifting, and a kettlebell.
Kettlebell, sir. Yeah, it's an interesting combination.
So there you go. It's going well. My weight stays. I was going to drop. One plan was to drop down to the next lower weight class, but Mike Brown had a good point. Stick to this 102 class for at least one more meet and get used to the weight. Then, if I can just hold this weight for a while, then do the dip again. Maybe.
Sure.
Fine. Yeah. So, the training is good. Yesterday was brutally hot. We're in trouble in Utah. My state takes great pride in not planning anything, and so we're the fastest growing state in the union. The area I live, called the I-15 corridor. I mean, we're basically. We went up 11% in population, but here's a small little thing many of our listeners might not know. We live in a desert. So I don't know if you know this about deserts, but that's going to shock our state planners, but there's no water in a desert.
Not a lot of water out there.
What's the phrase I'm looking for? Oh, because we're a desert. So our governor came out with a very exciting plan, and gentle listener, I joke you not. His plan is not to do anything like curtail development or, ban, this or that, or to ban fireworks. His plan is that we should pray.
Well, I don't have anything against prayer, but typically we like some practical action to go
with action. Actually right. Does.
Right.
You know the old joke about the lady goes for the lottery ticket lady?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. Every week the woman goes into church and prays, "Dear God, give me let me win the lottery." This goes on for months and months and months. "Dear God, let me win the lottery." And finally a voice booms from heaven. "Go halfway, buy a ticket."
Well, it's funny. That reminds me of another one where some guy's like, I'm going to get it wrong, but he's on the top of his house. And it's flooding everywhere. So the opposite problem of you. There's just water everywhere. And he said, "God, please save me from this." A guy with a boat comes by and says, "Hey, get in." He's like, No. I'm asking God for help, right?" And he says, "God, please save me from this." Another guy with a boat comes by and says, "Hey, get in," right? Guy eventually drowns, goes to heaven, whatever. He says, "God, why did you save me?" He's like, "I sent 3 boats."
I've heard this. I said a rowboat, I said a canoe, and I said a helicopter. What did you want?
Yeah. So you know it better than I do. So yes, okay. Very hot in Utah. It's very hot here in Wisconsin. We've had like 3 days of 90 degrees, but we're surviving the weather. It's why we're going to talk about our favorite summer workouts. Maybe not in 90-degree heat, but we'll get there. Dan, you've got some cool traveling coming up. The thing you're doing in New York, is that still, if anybody's in the area and they're interested, is that still open for registration, or what's that situation look like?
You'd have to head to Dragon Door. I mean, I don't know how much the facility can hold, but we seem like to have a pretty good sized group. But yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, gentle listeners, do us a favor. If you're tuning in, we will take Q&A here as always. So submit your questions. Also hit the like button and share. Help bring other people into this conversation as well. So just wanted to get that in. So yes, Dan, continue. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't remember what I was talking about, but I'm sure it was illuminating. Yeah, things. So I had a course on goal setting and then a course on programming, and now I'm working on one on easy strength. And the most interesting thing is that I can basically knock out. I mean, yesterday, trivia. Oh, by the way, we took a second last night in trivia. I'm so sorry, gentle listener, and I missed some. I missed some questions.
Missed some big ones. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Dan.
I mean, to say that I'm disappointed with myself would be an understatement, and I do apologize, everyone. But I don't know where that was heading. My failure in trivia just stopped my brain from working. That's just so sad. What were we talking about?
What were we talking about? I don't know. I got so wrapped up in that emotional moment that I've completely lost track of the conversation.
Why
continue? Let's just call it here. So, well, why don't we turn to the theme today, Dan, and we'll build off of that. Like I said, people want to know what Dan John's perfect summer workout routine looks like. I've got a few ideas of a perfect summer workout routine in my own mind, but be curious to hear some of yours.
Well,
how you would take this.
Like Vivaldi, let's step back and think 4 seasons. And this is something I've really believed in my whole career. And I didn't even know how much I believed in it until I kind of stood back. It was actually a parent thinking that their little child was going to be the greatest athlete of all time, and they were doing sports specialization without appropriate DNA. If you don't have the DNA, it's going to be real hard. You know, Pat, you might want your kids to be the fastest sprinter in the world, but
they pick the wrong parents for that. I'll tell you,
there's a lightning bolt that has to happen. So fall is a great time for disciplined programs. American football is a very disciplined sport. It's back to school time. So I always recommend to people, if you're going to do a do this program, fall is the best time. Winter, I recommend go heavy, go hard, go home, the GH program. Get your workout in, eat a lot of soup, sleep a lot, knit, learn new hobbies. Spring, when the weather starts to open up, it's track and field season, get outside, have some fun. But summer is playtime. Summer is when the berries and fruits come out. Summer is when, summer is the time you should be outside throwing balls, riding your bike. I rode my bike yesterday with my grandchildren. We went to this place called Laguna Beach the other day. We're up in Farmington, where I hung out at the pool all day with the grandkids and my daughters, and you run around and you do water slides and you laugh. And to me, the best way to get the best summer workout I know is go to an amusement park. If you have your phone in your pocket, I've walked 6 and 7 miles at amusement parks, having a great time, and not one time thinking I'm getting 6 or 7 miles in a walk. So one of my big thoughts, and now we'll segue over into the actual training, is that this is the time of year to be outside and enjoy yourself. I'm a big believer in grabbing a kettlebell or a barbell. And by the way, this is what Arnold did. You could either drive or walk it to a field or park and just play around with and learn. The Coyote Point Kettlebell Club was based on the idea we all showed up at a park at Coyote Point and just had some fun and lifted weights. And if someone saw something, we would try it. If it was a good idea, we'd do it again. If it was a dumb idea, we'd pretend it never happened. So
right, yeah, no, I love this, Dan. I love the idea of training with the seasons. We've talked about that before, and for me, yes, summertime is the time to take the kettlebell outside, kettlebells and sunshine. And you can have some structure if you want, but I think that there should be room for improv, creativity, play, and fun in a workout routine as well. So one of my favorite things to do, I'll just throw out an idea, is, there's a number of fields and hills around here. So I like to just bring a kettlebell. Sometimes you don't even need a kettlebell, but it's cool if you have one, right? Park one at the top and or the bottom of the hill. You sprint up the hill, you do something with the kettlebell, set of snatches, set of swings, you walk back down, you do something at the bottom of the hill, set of push-ups, you sprint back up. Sun is shining, birds are chirping, everybody's having a good time. That to me is something like the ideal type of summer workout. Outside, somewhat spontaneous. Yes, we're training different things: strength, power, endurance. But I like to take advantage of those types of routines because at least here in Wisconsin, that's not something you can do all year around.
No. And even in Utah, I mean, well, one of the issues we have this time of year is when you bring the bells outside, they get so hot. And so it's funny, but I also recommend always bringing a towel, not to wipe off the copious amounts of sweat that you will get, but rather to put it over the bell so you don't burn your hands when you come back.
Right.
So for me, in fact, I also think that if you, and you can, I'm certainly no diet expert, but as an omnivore in that great book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, humans have this ability to eat just about anything. I guess we have the ability to eat 200,000 different plants and 200,000 different creatures. We're very unusual. There are animals that only, the panda only eats bamboo shoots. I mean, that, if they're in the middle of the ocean, they go hungry. Where we can have a delicious tuna melt. And I think this is an important time to remind yourself that you're an omnivore. Experiment with, different fruits that you might find. We have a really good farmer's market just about half a mile from my house at a place called Wheeler Farm. And, you'll go there and there'll be these locally grown vegetables that I don't know about. And I'll, certainly members of the pepper family, try them out. Fruits, I tried dragon fruit this week, which I thought was...
Is that the stuff that tastes like juicy fruit, the gum?
No, well, maybe I had a bad one, but it tasted more like really sweet oatmeal to me. Yeah. And gentle listener, don't take my taste buds as the answer to all questions. Yeah. So, I mean, you play around with different fruits, you play around with different vegetables.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the jackfruit. You ever seen one of those things?
No.
Yeah, you don't want to. Hideous.
But, gentle listener, I mean, if you're going to have a breakfast, this is a great time of year to experiment with salad with fruit. This has become very popular out in the West here. Salads with strawberries, blueberries, walnuts, slivered almonds, these fruit and nut fest salads have become very popular. And I tell you one thing, I think that leaves a better mark than a cardboard box of grain, So I would also, I guess my point is I would also play around with the summer eating as well as the summer training concept.
Yes, I like this idea. Hey, I see people are chiming in both with what they're drinking and where they're tuning in from. So let us hear from you. We have Vinny here who just polished off his kombucha and he's cheersing us from Ohio. We have Avichai, if I'm pronouncing that right, from Israel. So yeah, gentle listeners, chime in not only with your questions, let us know what you're drinking, where you're tuning in from, and your favorite summer workout routine. Another one that I love, Dan, very basic, is just some type of hinge movement, a pull-up, if you can get a pull-up bar outside, and then some type of frolic, if you know what I mean. So one of my favorites is just, I often don't even mark a specific distance or time. When I work out in my neighborhood, there's usually just like a good loop, you know what I mean? And it's pull-ups, go around the loop, swings or snatches, pull-ups, go around the loop, swings or snatches, pull-ups, go around the loop, swings or snatches. Just really good feel-good routines. You get the basic movements in, you get a good sweat up. What is there not to like about that, right?
I'm doing a workshop with Norway tomorrow, and I have that video of me doing 8 goblet squats, a prowler push, 8 push-ups. And people always say, well, that would be ideal. Well, it's a great workout. And thank you, Mitch, for coming up with it. But, like you said, if I put a kettlebell at the bottom of the hill, did 8 goblet squats, ran a hill at the top, did the 8 push-ups, and did that 20 times, yes, that would be a good workout. But it's so industrial complex, that it might not be a good summer workout. You follow my point? That's a workout to get me ready mentally and emotionally for the upcoming football season.
Yeah, to me, a good summer workout should energize me, it should get me excited to go jump into a pool afterwards. You know what I mean, right? But not be so exhausted that I wouldn't want to do that. Mm-hmm.
We're saying the exact same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll jam around with some more ideas here. Somebody said, do not try durian fruit. Is that the fruit that like tastes sweet at first, but then like tastes like onion like a minute later? If so, then I think I know what you're talking about.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Jackfruit is the one that I said tastes just like juicy fruit. There's a lot of weird fruits out there, Dan, isn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of
In
weird
fact, I bought black bananas the other day. I bought them because they were absolutely they didn't go, what do you right. They didn't go overripe. They are black bananas. And I thought to myself, because I'm also trying to follow my own advice. I'm trying to experiment with new fruits and vegetables nearly every time I go to the store.
right. See what kind of new and exotic parasites you can find, right, Dan?
Well, well, it certainly is a challenge to the gut biome. But yeah, there are some. Well, also too, I think one of the signs of an adult is that the expansion of the world, and I get very concerned of myself if all I do is contract.
Yeah,
right
on.
I've told people this about relationships. You look for a partner who expands your life, not contracts you. And it's an interesting way to look at the world. Yeah.
Indeed. So let's before we move to questions here, another one of the themes that I think fits well for the summer workout is the do a complex, go for a walk, which we've talked about before. And this, I think this fits well with the summer theme here, because it's something you can do outside. It's efficient. And what better time to go for a walk than when the sun is shining? So have you been doing any new complexes recently? Would you like to remind the gentle listener some of your favorites that you like to pair with hikes or walks? Mm-hmm.
If you go to my Instagram, I show a shortened version of the one I do every day now. I got a weightlifting meet coming up, so I got to make sure my issue has always been in my career as an Olympic lifter is getting the snatches in. Sadly, I get my opener often and I miss the next two. But the snatch complex, snatch grip, Romanian deadlift for a set of 8, 8 hang snatches, 8 overhead squats, 8 back squats, put the bar down, rest, and go again. That's 24 squats. And if that doesn't warm you up, I don't know what you need. So that's my favorite complex. A complex in my language is when you pick up a tool that would be either a kettlebell or a barbell. Almost. Somebody asked me yesterday if you could use sandbags. Okay, yeah, I guess you can. You could probably use medicine balls. You can use anything you want. I don't have the answer to everything. I use lawn chairs. It complexes when you do a movement for a certain number of reps, shift movements, and then you can do that up to 5 or 6 different movements, and then you put the implement down, the barbell or kettlebell. And so it's exercise followed by exercise followed by exercise followed by exercise without putting the load down or stopping.
Right.
And it sounds easy when we talk about it, but I've got one called Complex C. That's just exhausting. I got another one has 3 different squats in it: front squat, back squat, and overhead. Mm-hmm. If you're doing sets of 8 with those with 65 pounds, 30 kilos, your heart's going through the roof when you put the load down.
Right.
What people always ask, so what does it build? Well, I don't know what it builds, but
manliness.
Yes, it builds integrity.
Yes, indeed.
What it builds, sonny boy, I'll tell you. It is strange that the people from this bodybuilding worldview, this idea that everything is every exercise works. Dan, does that work your traps? You're the Highland Games flipping cables. Is that a trap exercise? Yeah, that's right. You just shrug this pole, right? But what it does is you put the weight down and you've really flushed your system. I really think that, it's a stupid question. If you can only do one thing, what would it be? It would probably be a complex. There would be a complex we'd pick out. The downside of complexes is when you do them 2, 3, 4 days in a row, you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with this.
Kind of smoked.
Yeah, I don't.
Which I think like 2 days a week of the high intensity complexes is more than enough for most people most of the time. In fact, Dan, one of my favorite complexes comes. Again, I borrow the idea from you. Is just taking that reverse Fibonacci sequence 8, 5, 3, and 2.
Oh yeah.
And just staple a couple exercises to it, or even just 2 exercises. One of my favorite is just the clean and squat sequence. So you go 8 cleans, 5 squats, and then 5 cleans, 3 squats, 3 cleans, 2 squats, and then you could do 2 and 1 if you really wanted to. That'll get you. That one bites, right?
Hey, Pat, I'm going to ask a huge favor for a moment. My dog is down here in my office with me, and he continues to release wind. So what I'm going to do,
you take your time, Dan. I'll hold the gentle listeners over.
Explain to them Pat Flynn's favorite single kettlebell complex. Go.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Okay, so gentle listeners, what is Pat Flynn's favorite single kettlebell complex? Well, I got a couple. I'm always a fan of the 9-minute workout, and I'm not going to explain all of that in detail because it's on my YouTube channel, so you can see it. I think this is a great summer workout routine. And in fact, I like to, for the 9-minute workout, I always like to kind of sandwich it between 2 things. So I like to do a 9-minute workout, then maybe go for like a long walk or jog or something like that, and then come back and do the 9-minute workout again. And the idea of the 9-minute workout is you take a series of exercises, single kettlebell exercises, 1-arm swings, cleans, snatches, push presses, lunges, that sort of thing. You go 30 seconds of each until you've done a 9-minute workout. Great full body conditioning routine, builds wind, builds integrity, as Dan would say, and just feels good, easy, minimalist equipment. All right, good job, Dan. He's back, and there's one of my answers.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you were in such a toxic environment.
I gotta say, so I hope he feels better in a few minutes.
Oh man, when dogs get, the stomach issue. So I have a Saint Bernard, as you know, and over the weekend she got into some trash, as she often does. And there was something that came out of that. Fortunately outside mostly. And we had to call the government. I mean, there was just nothing else that we could do.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that we cannot use this 12-mile radius around my house. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Whew. So, yes, shall we start doing some questions, Dan? Is there anything else you wanted to say about complexes or?
Yeah, complexes, squat programs, easy strength. I would say about 99% of the work I do, Patrick, is you really should shut up about all the extra questions until you do a set, because I guarantee the next question up is going to be, so how do you warm up for a complex? Put less weight on the bar and do a round of complexes. What is less weight? Okay, see what you got on the bar now? Less. I think complexes only work in the doing, not in the talking.
Indeed. Well, let's see if we got that question, shall we, Dan?
Sure.
First question comes from Abhai, if I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if not. And this gentle listener wants to know the following. Could you please settle this one forever? What is the difference between 3x4, 4x3, 6x2, 2x6, and 12x1 in terms of reps and sets?
Well, I would never do a set of 4 or 4. These are not Fibonacci numbers. I can't do it.
This came in before we talked about the Fibonacci sequence. Okay. So I think this is just an independent question unrelated to our conversation thus far.
Yeah, I don't know. Could you follow up on this question just a tiny?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind some clarification here, this would be good. I mean, if you're talking about like different set and rep ranges, then we can say, okay, generally, if you're, lower rep and you're using more weight, you're going to be kind of focusing more on limit strength. And if you're kind of in those middle rep ranges, 6 to 12-ish, and you're relatively heavy for that, you're going to get more of the hypertrophy effect. And then if you go beyond that, we're in muscle endurance. So maybe that's what the question is asking. And certainly, Dan, as we said before, we are proponents of training across a wide variety of rep ranges. Because there's many benefits to be had from training across a wide variety of rep ranges.
When the internet first started, we did this thing called the 100 challenge, the 100 rep challenge or something like that, where you took a single weight and you did 100 singles with it. And I've done that with front squats, snatches, the Olympic snatch, power cleans and clean and press. And it'd be 100 times 1. I'm not recommending you do it very often, but I really found that to be a valuable training tool every couple of months. I mean, I certainly would never You follow my point? I'm trying to make, Pat. I would
I
never
do.
program a challenge like that, but I would offer it as. I tell you one thing: it's a real gear change, game changer kind of thing. Where
Sure.
you're, if you're doing 3 sets of 8, and it's a great workout with a minute rest, and you're doing 9 different machines, and then one day you go into the gym and you do 100 deadlifts with a weight. That day of 100 singles is gonna, it's gonna, it's gonna really. I don't know if it's gonna be good or bad for you, but I got to. It changes your vision of working out for a few days, and sometimes that's what you need. So I don't know if I can.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. Next one comes from Daniel, and he says, "Does Dan have any opposition? Is he strongly opposed to using reverse ladders? I prefer them as it feels they are easier as I go along."
Okay, so gentle listener, so there's 2 ways to do ladders. So the first is you do a single, then you do a double, then you do a triple, then you do 4, then you do 5. Then you same weight, a single, a double, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same weight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't like that for adults. Having said that, I like it for 2 exercises: the overhead press and a squatting movement. Those seem to work well. Anything else, we do reverse ladders. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm a much bigger fan of reverse ladders.
For pull-ups too, I love reverse ladders for pull-ups.
Yeah. When James Brees came out with Kettlebell Fever, I did his program as a test, as a favor for him, and he had this workout where you did 1 goblet squat, 1 swing, 2 goblet squats, 2 swings, 3 goblet. And when you got up to 6, anyone know what it feels like to get to 16 goblet squats and 16 swings? You know what's next?
Happy fun time.
17 goblets and 17. My God, by the time I got to 2020, I was miserable. I only did that once. And then he told me that I misunderstood the program. But honestly, 2020, 19, 19, 18, 18, 17 would be really, really hard, but very doable. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 is not doable. Cool. I mean, you can certainly muscle through it, or mentally muscle through it like I did the one time. But yeah, right. So of course.
Yeah, so like reverse ladders, he's got a follow-up question. What are your thoughts on doing farmer's walks up and down stairs?
Oh, I think they're fine. In fact, backwards farmer walks is when we figured out that the backwards sled pull was such a good exercise for my female athletes' needs. So
you like backwards and uphill? So you're talking about for the farmer? Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a quad destroyer.
But next time you have a chance on a hill, Pat, turn around and walk backwards up it, and really try to get the burn, and then touch the muscles that are burning, and you realize those are the muscles that are the ones that you want to build for the female basketball, volleyball player who has Q angle issues.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We can only do so much with the Q angle, and the joke I always say, is on the 7th day, I told God, we have to finish up with the unicorn and the Q angle, but he wanted to go golf. The Q angle, and anybody who works with the adolescent female athlete will know this. The Q angle can be I have to be careful because it's really, the Q angle is a good thing because it allows, and I'm thinking of little Leo upstairs, it allows for one of the great miracles of life, and to make that easier. Having said that, it really is hard on the adolescent female athlete because, you'll very often notice when you coach female athletes that your 9th and 10th grade girls can go to the state championship and do well. Same girl 2 years later has very often, not uncommon at all, might not even be on your team because the secondary puberty that hits, it's weird because it makes, rarely will you have a freshman discus thrower at the state meet unless you're coached by me. But it's not uncommon to have a very large freshman and sophomore influence on a high school female girls track team. And it never seems to fix. And it's a lot of it. I mean, there are social issues and there's just, track's a tough sport and people quit, but it is part of it.
Cool. All right. We're going to keep storming along because we got plenty of questions. Keep them coming, guys. We'll get through as many as we can. Kirill says, hello from Helsinki, Finland.
Hey, I know words okay. I'm going to say a word I'm going to say, I know 2 words in Finnish. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hihas. That's javelin. And then discus. And that's discus.
That's discus. Don't you love discus? It's just consistent. Kirill's question is, I'm a classic upper body guy, but always did lower body work, swings and squats and deadlifts and even lunges. I hate to admit it, and I hope not to get slapped in the face. We know how Dan feels about lunges. He continues, I want to change that. I guess there's a certain kind of body composition issue there. My plan is to do more lower body and keep upper body to a minimum. He wants to keep to whole body movements such as jerks. Have you had clients with these kind of needs? And he's got one more thing to say. He says, I understand that the issue could be approached from a bodybuilding angle, but I trust you guys more. The longevity, steroids, etc., seem to make the bodybuilding world less trustworthy. Thanks. Dan, what are your thoughts on all those comments?
I'm kind of lucky. You're lucky you asked the question today and not maybe last week, because Jim Wendler just came out with a very interesting article. And Jim Wendler's articles are very short. They are just, here you go. But he made a statement. Now, I'm talking about training people right now, Kirill, in American football, okay? And Finland, by the way, has a very good American football teams. He said an interesting thing. Now, this is what I would call a quadrant 2 activity, which is collision sports and collision occupations. But he said when you're training American football players, you train them like bodybuilders for the upper body and athletes for the lower body.
Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. I saw that article getting shared around. I have not had a chance to read it yet. So thank you for mentioning this.
And the reason I mention it is that from a sales perspective, I don't know of a better way to sell off-season weight training to adolescents than we're going to act like bodybuilders upper body, and we're going to act
yeah, here it is. I'm linking it in the comments. It's called Bodybuild the Upper, Athlete the Lower.
Yeah, and again, we can agree or disagree. Kirill, I certainly, when I coached American football, we were a very ballistic team. We did kettlebell snatches, kettlebell swings, cleans. We did Olympic lifts, the snatch and clean and jerk, and the clean and press. I found that I wanted my players to hit the opponent so hard that we took the fight out of them. And one of my athletes who later was the last person cut by the Green Bay Packers. He was the exact, he nailed exactly what I was trying to get done on the field of play. Having said that, I can understand, with Jim, I believe it's the back squat and the trap bar deadlift he uses.
Yeah, this is a beautifully short article. I literally just read the entire thing right now. It's like three paragraphs, right? He says, yeah, Dan, it's the squat and trap bar deadlift. They're programmed to be done with power. So, he's looking for speed and precision, low reps there. And then he just does your bodybuilding for the upper. Mm-hmm.
So Kirill, yeah. And personally, though, I agree with what Kirill said, though, Patrick. I still am a big fan of the whole body stuff.
Right.
The best way to probably do it, as always, is, if you do a program like 5-3-1, and by the way, if you're doing 5-3-1, gentle listener, week 4, the deload, I have learned when we did it, that was actually the most important week. And that was the hardest week to keep adolescents focused, but that down week was key. But if you can mix in some kind of full body lift, I'm a big fan of what you're trying to do.
Cool. Clem says, howdy from Texas. He's drinking black coffee. Cheers. And Saul from Minnesota. Cheers to you. He's got fresh ground coffee with a splash of coconut milk.
Wow,
Very good.
That coconut. Well, that will, Saul, having coconut in there, that will provide you with MCTs, and then you will not only live forever, but you'll be disease-free.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Saul continues here. He says he recently put Parkinson's law to work for himself by putting his Army ACFT lifts into a 30-minute EMOM routine. It's wrecking me, he says. I think he means wrecking in like a good way.
If you got a minute, would you type up what you're trying to do, Saul? I'm not sure. I know what the test is, but if you wouldn't mind, just kind of, if you could just give us like a
little snippet,
just so I can see it. But it sounds interesting. I'm really happy the United States Army moved to a different testing thing, and it'll be fun to watch that evolve.
Remember, we did a full episode on that. Maybe
Yeah.
that was about maybe like 2 years ago now. We did a full episode on that. That was a good
and
one.
And as everybody knows, I'm a big fan of the bulk of it. I will go to my death wondering why we still have the jogging component in there. Yeah. Oh, we have two people from Wisconsin.
Yeah, DC says coffee and treadmill, fellow Badger here.
Okay, I wish I'd have known that earlier. I would have been talking a lot slower. Yeah, a little shots there. Yeah.
I think badgers are pretty dangerous. I actually don't know much about badgers, to be frank. I
saw one once. They're dangerous. Okay.
Toby says, a question regarding working out when you're not sleeping well. Do you push through it or do you give it a rest day? At what point do you draw the line?
Well, I know this, and Patrick, I think you've had the same experience. I look back to when Lindsay and Kelly both had various lung issues. One had bronchitis and the other had bronchiolitis. And there was a 2-week period where, honest to God, I don't think I slept probably in a straight line more than an hour. Week 1, I just kept training heroically. Week 2, I napped. I think the first question is, what's causing your sleep issues? If it's your delightful baby, little Leo upstairs, if it's if it's a short-term issue, and it's just something, I don't know, travel, like sometimes I have to, well, what was it recently? I had to get up at 3 a.m. to fly somewhere. To go to one of our military installations, I had to get up at 3 and be at the airport by 4. On that kind of thing, it's just like, that's one day, no big deal. It'll all work out. If it's a baby with an illness, if it's a day or two, I would still, you might want to mediate the workout. If it's 2 weeks, the rules have changed. Okay, so short-term workout, can you almost see how it's becoming a graph?
Yes.
Having said that, I want to know why you're not sleeping, because if you hit a certain age and all of a sudden your sleep gets bad, I worry a lot about people when they hit their 30s or 40s would be most common, but some for 30s, and all of a sudden they start to struggle with sleep. I think you need intervention early and often if your sleep cycle is getting disturbed nightly. Yeah. For me, you can start off with something simple. You can wear one of those I wear sleep masks on the road. I have this let me grab it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Take your time.
In fact, I'll grab it.
Yeah, by the way, I just saw this one come in. Frank, yes, we will still we will do video critiques, because Frank wants to know, are you guys still planning on doing video critiques?
Oh, yeah.
He says he has a video link. If so, no, you got to get it to me before the episode though. So, right. and here, because I have to gear it up before the stream. So here's the deal, guys. If you want Dan and I to take a look at a video technique, there's 2 things you have to do. You have to upload it on YouTube. It can't just be like a separate file. And then you have to send me the link, and you have to email it to me at patflynn@chroniclesofstrength.com with the subject line of video critique, so I know what it is. And what we'll do is we will try and pick a few of those, and we'll be able on the stream to live critique whatever exercise you want to send us. But so yes, Frank, just make sure you email me the YouTube link, and we can try and do that next time. Yeah, beautiful mask, Dan. That's really nice.
Yeah, this one's called a sleep bra, as you can tell. Great for road trips. But this is the one I'm most excited about. I don't want to sell any of the company, but I don't know. It's a sleep mask, but it's also Bluetooth, and it's got. You can see why I'm so popular with the ladies. Sorry, where is that thing? Okay, went the wrong way. But it's a Bluetooth, and it's got earbuds here. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I connect it to brain.fm, and I meditate every day with this. On the road, sometimes I will set it for it. There's a Brain FM 8-hour guided sleep, which plays music in your head and keeps you asleep. I also take something called Hibernate. Hibernate is a product. If you go to Dan John, the forum at davedraper.com and go to the Dan John forum, davedraper.com, Dan John forum, one of the guys markets this thing called Hibernate. Basically, it's magnesium and zinc with this. They sprinkle a tiny little bit of melatonin. I take that. I can't emphasize enough. And Pat, you know the situation. I can't really talk about it too much here. But once again, someone who's going through a life issue, this life issue started with sleep issues. So very often, gentle listener, your sleep quality can impact your emotional. Well, I can say this with about 30 years ago, maybe 32 years ago, Pat. So yesterday in my mind, I worked with two men who out of nowhere started making bad decisions. And one of the guys ended up in federal prison and is still a good friend of mine. In both cases, we were just sitting around in both cases. And one day they both mentioned, yeah, hey, Dan, how's your sleep? Oh, yeah, it's okay. And he goes, well, it's weird. I go to bed at 9, I wake up at 2 and I can't get back to sleep. And in both cases, these guys started going 4 and 5 hours of sleep a night. And in about a few months, started making really horrible life decisions. And I'm convinced that quality of sleep not only impacts your six-pack abs to the detriment, but it also impacts the way your decision processes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we know that sleep is a force multiplier, right? And that if you have good sleep, it makes everything else easier. You have more energy for your workouts. You have more willpower for those food decisions. If you sleep poorly, as everyone knows, you tend to be very sensitized, tend to be easily agitated, tend to look for.
What do you mean by that?
What are you implying? Huh? And tend to look for quick, cheap energy sources, right? Make not so great food decisions, right? So all points very well taken. Sleep matters. And yeah, just to this gentle listener's question, I'll say, as somebody who has 4 children, and God bless them, none of them have ever been a particularly great sleepers. You sometimes just have to adjust things accordingly, right? So, like short term, yeah, like, okay, whatever. This is just a one-time thing. Kid was up with diarrhea tonight. It's diarrhea night. That's fine. We'll keep going. But, my sleep is just not as good now with 4 children as it was when I was 20, for example, right? And that's just the reality of it. So I have to adjust things accordingly. Not so significantly, right? But still accordingly, to make sure that my recovery is there and that I'm not putting myself in a state of distress, right, rather than eustress.
You make a funny point, because I think about that. I'll teach at these certs, or I'll teach at these workshops, and there'll be guys in their early 20s, and they can't wait to take their shirt off, and they've got their 6-pack abs and everything. It's like same guy 10 years later with a couple kids, and you can't get his shirt off to save your life. And it's like, what changed in the 10 years? Life, but also, and that's why I think it's so important that sleep hygiene has to be. I'll find it interesting and work with somebody who wants to get ready for the next Olympics, which is, we're in a weird time with the COVID thing, but the COVID Olympics. But like, I will sit down with them and they want a training program, and I'll be talking to them about, I'll ask them more questions about their bedroom than about what equipment they have, because in 4 years of 9-10 hours of sleep a night, which evolve into 4 years of good breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snack decisions, which help support 4 smart years of quality strength training, which, you follow my point.
I do.
But they miss the whole idea that it all starts,
right. And look, like people sometimes get tired, ironically, no pun intended, tired about hearing about sleep. But the reason we bring it up so much is because it matters, because it's important. And sometimes these unsexy things, these basics and these fundamentals, are exactly what we need to return to in conversation. People are always distracted by the fads, the gimmicks, right? The squirrels, as we call them. And look, I mean, sleep is essential. And sometimes life puts you in situations where it's not ideal. And okay, fine. you have to adjust and accommodate for that. So,
Patrick, can I give you the title of this week's episode?
sure, please do.
So much of life begins in the bedroom.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And about half our listeners right now are going.
Saul is following up on his army workout here. He says 5 rounds of 10 reps of bench, 50-meter sled drag, 10 hanging knee tuck, then 5 rounds of 15 V-ups, 20 kettlebell swings, and 50-meter farmer's carries. He calls it the 30-minute death bunch.
But I thought he said every minute on the minute. I mean, I think it's great. In fact, gentle listener, if you get a chance, I mean, screenshot that. That's pretty good. And you'll get screenshot it in 3, 2, 1.
Boom, 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 and it's gone. So cool. All right. Deo, sorry. And he's checking in from Phoenix. Black coffee. Made it home with beans from a local shop. I've got some local coffee myself. Cheers to you.
Dale, I will be in Phoenix Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be over at there's a high school in Gilbert, but if you ping me a note, maybe if you want to have coffee or have a beverage over there on Mill Avenue, let me know.
Do it up. Don't miss that opportunity. Tim says, good morning, guys. Always great to hear from you. Good morning to you, Tim.
Hello, Tim. Tim, it's an honor.
Clem says, any recommendations for getting a stronger neck in the summer for the next season of jiu-jitsu? Yeah, what do we think about neck training, Dan? Is there anything?
I'm not a big fan of neck training, but I am a fan of on the mat net. Okay, so this is oh gosh, this is probably we're sneaking up on a 50-year discussion in my head. Clem, this is a 50-year discussion in my head, Clem, about the use of neck training in sports. Basically, every time I've ever tried to make it work, the injuries that we get from neck training are greater than the injuries we prevent. But, and that's a big but, glute work. I think that like the wrestler's bridge, anything you can do on the mat to train your neck is a good idea. My knock on training the neck in the weight room is it tends to lead to, this is going to sound strange to some of you, but ear infections. Because when you tweak here and here in the neck, sometimes for some of us, and I am a victim of ear infections.
As am I.
It makes things crank down on the Eustachian tube, which leads to ear infections. But I do think that the wrestler's bridge has great value. I think that spinning on the head and those things you guys do in the fighting arts is really good. I'm just not convinced that a strength coach has the toolkit yet for appropriate strength training. I'm still a fan of doing the big snatch, the big clean, the big deadlift with shrug, because I do think that this exercise seems to help a little bit. Dick Notmeyer was a big believer in snatch, grip, deadlift, and shrug, which I think is one of those great exercises that, not enough people do. But specific strength exercises on the neck, I personally avoid them. Right. You're mildly very
cool. DC says, and here he might be inviting something of a rant. He says, thanks for the content. How annoying is it to constantly have people ask you questions about modifying a program that you came up with?
Pat, I don't know how you feel, but there's nothing worse than having somebody do, I'm doing mass made simple, but I don't want a back squat. Well, the cornerstone of the entire book is back squatting. You don't want to do it. Yeah. Can I do it with, the leg curl machine? No.
Dan, is it easy strength? Is that the most notorious one that people try to tweak?
No. One lift a day.
It's not. Oh, okay. Really?
One lift a day. Oh my God. One lift a day. Okay, folks, if you do the Olympic list and you snatch on Monday, front squat on Tuesday, clean on Thursday, jerk on the next day, and then Saturday have a reasonable total snatch and clean and jerk. That's a really good week of training. Okay. And all you're going to do is on Monday is snatch. Hand goes up. Can I snatch and bench press? Well, then that's not one lift a day. Yeah, but I'm trying to train. You're not training for anything. You're just doing a bunch of crap again, yeah. So yeah, for me, I find it extremely annoying because, for example, and Pat, this. Do you remember when the book, that the most brilliantly titled book of all time, Paleo Redundant?
Yes,
What did one of
paleo
your
workouts for dummies.
what did one of your readers do?
He actually did the program?
How many days of it?
All the days. He did all the days of the program. Impressively.
This reader of yours did 180 days of the workout, right? I did 2 rounds of 90, right?
Right, and gave detailed feedback afterwards. Because very generous indeed.
The effing workout, folks. So when Pat's book came out, I dedicated 180 days of my life to doing the workout as written.
Right.
When I did Chris Schugert's Velocity Diet, I did it exactly how he said, and I also made the best progress of any of his followers. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I'm more genetically gifted, which is probably true, folks. But let's be honest.
And let me add one comment there. It was because you did the entire program that your feedback was especially valuable. Like I don't care what somebody says about a program that they haven't followed. You know what I mean?
Right.
It means absolutely nothing to me. Right. But for somebody who has gone through one of my programs, really, done it as written and instructed, and then gives me feedback, well, then I care very much about what they have to say about it. Right.
And do you recall my feedback was that some of the metabolic conditioning work?
Right. Yeah. You said turn the dial down on some of the Metcon stuff. And that was very valuable feedback. And obviously I wasn't able to rewrite the book, but going forward in how I would program stuff, that was always implemented. Right.
And then we discussed at length, instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on so many of your strength modules, going 2, 3, 5 or something like that, just because the amount of time it was taking to get through, some of the workouts in your book, Pat. And by the way, listen, I hope you're listening, gentle listener. I'm giving his feedback because I did it exactly as written. And then at the end saying, dude, I was in the gym for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes going, holy cow, I got to do this. And I got to work out tomorrow. I mean, and when you folks, when I say I worked out for an hour and 45 minutes, don't take this wrong, gentle listener, but I really work out. I don't open my phone and check my tunes and, okay. One of the reasons my phone is blowing up, I just found out this, and this is the second time in a week I'm going to say something. As you recall, last week, a friend of mine from the Utah Jazz by the name of Mark Eaton died. He was a good friend. I coached him, and he died in something to do with his bicycle. We don't know. And I just found out, gentle listener, a good friend of mine, Jim Fossil, head coach of the University of Utah football team, later took the Giants to a football bowl, has just died. So
my sincere condolences.
Sorry about that. I was wondering why my phone was buzzing so much. I'm going to give you all one quick Jim Fossil story. God, I don't mean to get misty-eyed, but his son, John, was my quarterback, and he later became, his son, John, is a special team coach for the LA Rams, and famously was the head coach for a week.
Wow.
My sophomore quarterback became a NFL head coach, which tells you something about my career. One day, Jim and I are at practice, and I think I've told you this story before. And halfway through practice, a bunch of whistles go off, and the whole team gathers up to do another 10 minutes of flexibility. And Jim turns to me and he says, I don't get it. I go, what? He goes, we stretch before practice, we stretch in the middle of practice, we stretch at the end of practice, and everybody's injured. When I played, nobody stretched and nobody ever got hurt. And he walked away. And it was one of those moments where, sometimes that's why you need community, gentle listeners, because I went back to the coaches I was working with, and I said, he said that today. And it gets me thinking that maybe we're doing something wrong with stretching. And of course, the research came out later. And famously, when I wanted to become a coach, I asked for Jim. Now Jim was a Division I football coach, and I asked him for some time. His secretary, who I later got to know very well, Dixie, after we left, she said, "Okay, you ruined his whole schedule for the day." And I said, "What did I do?" He goes, "Well, I don't know what you guys were talking about, but he's way out." I just asked Jim, "What would it take to be a better coach?" And he said, "I'll give you half an hour." And we talked for an hour and a half. So
that's the kind of guy he was. And we have some condolences from the gentle listeners. Tim says, condolences on the passings of Coach Fossil. I remember him well when he was with the Giants, as I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah. So I guess, so for many of you listening, always remember that when I'm kind and decent and take time for you, it's because of Ralph Mon and Dick Knottmeyer, Jim Fossil, Rick Bojack, so many of those coaches who just didn't have enough time and just made it, So Jim, my condolences go off to his wife Kitty, of course his sons, and a special nod to John, my quarterback, who became an NFL head coach. So thank you.
Yes. Sumi says, what is your opinion on the kettlebell clean and jerk or the kettlebell clean and push press as a full body lift? Seems like even more so than the kettlebell clean and press with the little extra quad involvement from the dip.
So Sumi, your name means Finland, by the way, which is kind of interesting.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So
Swama. Yeah, anytime you start talking about a perfect exercise or quad development or anything like that, I think you run down an interesting road. I think there's great value to the double kettlebell clean and press, the double kettlebell clean and push press, the double kettlebell clean and push jerk. Yes. And it's a good exercise. And good things can happen when I teach that exercise at the RKC2. I discover how poorly conditioned every single person in the place is.
Right.
So yes, I'm walking with you on this. Okay.
Right. Well, I can't believe it, but the hour is already gone, Dan. And as it always happens, these conversations blow by so quickly. And but there's always next week, as they say. And indeed, it is always a treasure and a treat to be with you each week, Dan. So before we wrap up, give us the updates. I know you've got some new courses that have come out, some that you're already working on. So please direct the gentle listeners to some of the stuff that you have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, sure. Well, first and foremost, Patrick, over there at Dan John University, we've got the goal setting course, which is $30. And my favorite part of the feedback is you should charge hundreds for this. And I guess a lot of people offer these kinds of things online, but nobody offers it for $30. And honestly, basically, you're just paying for the bandwidth. As many of you know, for me, I'm all about goal achievement, but making sure that your life aligns with your goal. The programming course is $50, and it's 18 sections, 2 hours of different videos, not a 2-hour video, 70 pages of original writing, and there you go. And the one I'm working on right now, which I'm very proud about, is the Easy Strength course, and I should have that ready to go on probably the 1st of July.
Awesome. Beautiful. Dan John University, my friends. If you haven't been there already, you need to go there immediately after the show. Immediately.
Hey, Patrick,
no dawdling, no delay. Yes, Dan.
It's fascinating how many episodes you and I have gone through. And the thing I'd like to say so much to all the listeners is, we talked the day my brother died, today with the death of Jim. And what I want the listeners to realize that, you're a father of 4, I'm a father of 2, I've got grandchildren. We have real lives, we have real stuff come up. Right. And I'd like to remind all of our listeners that, real life is real life, and your sleep, your nutrition, and your training can make you a better parent, a better coach, a better neighbor. So when we talk here, always remember, it's the carryover into the real world. Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic reminder as we close out here, Dan. Thank you as always, and we shall see you next week.
I will be the good looking guy.
See you then.
All right, my friend.
Cheers, gentle listeners. Bye-bye.